Viewers, hello. I go by LazyFire. You may have been subscribed to this channel for a while and know that I used to make Let's Play videos, and those have petered out pretty significantly. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the tail end of this video. I don't want to distract much more than I have to from the topic at hand. And I do have a little bit of an explanation on what this is and a little background history and all that, so I'm going to jump right into it here. I've had this idea kicking around for a while about pivoting away from those aforementioned Let's Plays and doing more video essays. That's because I've been work from home for almost 5 years now, and I have just cycled through content so fast that I have been spending a lot of time watching people who have pretty deep archives on interesting topics. Secret Base and Matt McMuscles have recently been kind of the more frequent companions. Than I found out about Dungeon Chill the other day. And, these interesting topics that you don't really find many, let's say, books or articles on. And also I get to hear a human voice that isn't my wife's every day, so that's kind of nice too. And I start to think, as I'm going through this stuff, that there are certain topics I really like to talk about that my wife hates hearing about. And I think, you know what, maybe I could try my hand at that. So this is an experiment. I'm calling it True Grift. Here's the basic idea. I'm going to explain scams, confidence men, Ponzi schemes, and just generally shady financial dealings. I'm going to do it without playing the same 5 goddamn Simpsons clips everyone uses, without the gif of the woman looking confused as equations fly around the screen. There's not going to be a bunch of SpongeBob memes on screen for a quarter of a second that you can hardly read. This is not going to have a lot of visual components. There will be some. There might be screenshots or there might be something else. But for the most part, this is going to be something that you can put on in the background, not have to look at the screen and worry about you're going to miss something. Something you can just listen to. It's the kind of podcast, it's kind of a podcast format, I guess. Didn't realize it was that close until I misread my script. Damn. Oh well, I'm sure everyone will be all right. You're never going to have to see my face or my messy office. If you want to see my dogs, I will send you pictures. I take about 5 a day. They're very good girls. Also, I have a full-on adult-ass job, so you won't have to hear me advertise fucking Scentbird or whatever with her weird cult. Or Factor. Tool is not going to pay me dollars. I don't care about that. It also means that I don't have to play by YouTube's algorithm rules because I don't really care about being popular or getting money from monetizing this channel because I can't. So you won't hear me use words like unalive. I'm not going to bleep out things or anything like that. I'm going to talk like a normal fucking human being. As you might be able to tell from all the swearing. Demonetize me harder, YouTube, the company that doesn't pay my bills. You can't. I also won't be chasing trends like icebergs or tier lists unless I have a really good reason to do so. Like if we're covering like a commensurate scammer, there might be like a tier list of the scams this guy's pulled. When we get to JD Rockefeller's dad, it might be actually a really fun one to do that. Okay, so preamble over. Let's get into this. This is True Grift Episode 1. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead.
Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on.
Available at Walgreens.
Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on.
Available at Walgreens. New from the makers of HeadOn, introducing Activon. Arthritis pain? Activon. Apply directly where it hurts. Activon Arthritis, available at Walgreens.
If you're of a certain age, you can probably remember the first time you saw the HeadOn ad I just played. It was like 9/11, but for commercials. I was in a dorm room watching CNN with a friend of mine because we were cool 20-year-olds and not at all weird. And then we were blasted with apply directly to the forehead in a monotone voice for what felt like 30 seconds. it turns out that on a recent rewatch of this thing to get that clip, it turns out that the video is actually like only 15, 12 seconds long. It's not what I thought it was. But it's just a fever dream of an ad, right? If you haven't seen it before, go back, watch it again in this video a couple of seconds ago, and tell me that's not the weirdest fucking thing you've seen. It's just total gonzo shit. Could you, as a reasonable person, I assume you are, figure out that this was supposed to be a headache medicine? The ambiguous nature of the ad and what the product actually did was intentional, because HeadOn is a homeopathic medicine, and making specific claims about the efficacy of the product would most likely lead to them getting sued. In fact, there is a earlier version of this ad that was pulled from airwaves because a bunch of claims were made against the company about the nature of them saying that it could cure headaches. These complaints were made to the Better Business Bureau, which is not a government organization. In and of itself is kind of a scam, but we're limiting ourselves to like 4 scams in this video that all stem from HeadOn and talking about it. It's just, homeopathic medicine, frankly, does not work. And we're going to get into why in a few minutes. But we do need to talk about homeopathic medicine overall, because it's just it's going to be such a huge factor in so many episodes of this show that there's no way I can't jump into it. It's just an insane rabbit hole of a topic. To give you the briefest background possible on what homeopathic medicine is, it was first proposed at the tail end of the 18th century, 1796, as a matter of fact, by a physician in Germany named Samuel Hahnemann. The basic idea that he put forward is that by greatly diluting a substance that caused a symptom, you could cure the same symptom. Now remember, this is before we had things like germ theory. And he actually he first formulated this idea in 1796, which is the same year that the first smallpox vaccines were actually deployed. We'll cover that in a moment too. So by 1806, when he wrote a full-on paper about this, he should have known that vaccines work. They're very effective medicine. And he should have maybe backed off, but he just kept going. And now we have a bunch of fake products on shelves. It's really good. The thing is, we were getting a lot better at understanding medicine and health and everything like that. We didn't really understand the causes behind certain things at the time, but we're getting good. And the problem is that to do that, you were flinging a lot of shit at the wall and seeing what stuck. And that's what homeopathic medicine was. So the situation with the smallpox vaccines of the time is really a fascinating case of why this theory may have made some sense. I know I said a second ago it didn't, but we'll get into it. Now, homeopathic theories, like I said, were developed in 1796 originally, the exact same year that Edward Jennings actually put out the first live animal derived vaccines, smallpox vaccine, the most successful drug probably in the history of the world. But before that is where we get into the maybe homeopathic medicine would have made some sense thing, because there was a process called variolation that was in use in wide swaths of the world, but mostly not in Europe, or at least not in Western Europe. Chinese were practicing something like this as early as the 1500s, from what we can reasonably discern from contemporary writings. This method of inoculation involved crushing up smallpox scabs and blowing the resulting dust into the airways of a patient. Just awesome. Love it. A minor case of smallpox would develop and pass pretty easily. There was something like a 2% mortality rate, I believe. And the patients would just have immunity to the virus for life. There's a book called 10 Drugs That Changed the World. I highly recommend it. But in that book, it suggested that variolation was first brought to England by a woman named Mary Wortley Montagu. She was the wife of a British diplomat who was assigned to Constantinople or Istanbul, depending on, how you want to go about it. And she took her 5-year-old to a variolation party. I believe, it's been a while since I read the book, but I believe in the book, it said that the Turkish method that she witnessed and brought back to England was actually, they would open up the kid's arm and actually put a scab in the arm. I don't know. I think it was dried up or something like that. So it had it was a dead virus. So this was just as effective, seemingly, as the Chinese method I just described. And she would go back to England in 1718. And a few years later, after working with a doctor by the name of Charles Maitland to try to popularize this process, the Princess of Wales would allow that doctor to actually use the same virilation process on her daughter. So this actually, I left this out of my script, but it's something I discovered. It doesn't get talked about in 10 drugs, but after this was when they decided to test this out a little bit more thoroughly, and there was a smallpox scare at the time, is why this was even allowed to happen in the first place. But they decided to test it out more thoroughly by using prisoners from the royal jails. So just, oh boy, that's just on the nose, isn't it? Things have not changed very much on the whole human experimentation forcibly thing, huh? So anyways, all the variolation story is important to homeopathy because they were using a very small portion of the symptom of the disease to prevent people from getting sick from that disease. This is very much in line with what you would think homeopathy kind of works under. Again, no germ theory, no understanding of how the immune system really worked at this time. It seemed reasonable for the average person to hear this homeopathic theory and look at this treatment for smallpox that was, up until 1796, the only real treatment people had to prevent getting the disease, and not see much different. Hahnemann didn't use this concept, though, when he came up with this. This is all a red herring. So I could talk about the history of the smallpox vaccine, which is probably one of the most important medicines ever discovered, like I said, and a complete foil to HeadOn. You see, the smallpox vaccine and variolation processes were based on close observation over hundreds of years, and finally an application of the scientific process based around, I believe it or not, the fact that milkmaids hardly ever got smallpox. They got cowpox instead, which didn't actually cause them to get really sick at all. And it's related closely enough to smallpox, though, that their immune systems recognized the smallpox virus when they encountered it and could stop the disease cold. Homeopathic treatments are based on super diluting and occasionally shaking in a specific manner things that can cause you to get sick. There's no evidence they work, and at best, they are a placebo. The Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act was passed in the United States in 1938. It's a bill that was intended to ensure quality and safety in those three types of products. In the Senate, the co-author was Royal Copeland, who had been head of the New York Homeopathic Medical College before going on to be 1919's version of the COVID isn't real guy for the state of New York. He quite literally kept schools and prisons and hospitals and everything open, and pretty much any public health measure that you could imagine for the Spanish flu, he was against. Now, this got him into the Senate a couple years later because it was just, he kept the schools open, just all really people cared about during the COVID-19 pandemic too. Weird. Now, he died several months after the bill was signed from, quote, overwork. So maybe he should have diluted a little bit of work a couple hundred times and may have been able to keep going, but he's also 70 years old. So, man, he was probably not going to last much longer anyways. Since then, homeopaths have had a carve out in our drug laws that have just been a license to print money. Basically off people who don't know better or are not capable of paying for real medicine. As long as the homeopathic companies, the companies producing these medicines, just don't really make any specific medical claims about their products, they are usually good to go. This also works with supplements, by the way. They might say, oh, it can, be joint, it might reduce joint pain or strengthen joints or something like that. And they might kind of be brushing up against the law, but they don't have to test their products. They don't have to prove any sort of outcome. Alex Jones, the famous radio host, conspiracy theorist, and piece of shit, he got in trouble with the Attorney General of New York during COVID because he claimed that his nano silver containing toothpaste would not actually, it would prevent people from getting COVID. Obviously, that wasn't true, but he said it, and then he got really mad when Letitia James came after him, and then years later would go after his golden god. So just don't make claims about your products, and you can just do whatever you want. The FDA can't come after you then. So I digress. Since pretty much the start of this, homeopathy has become something of a catch-all term for just made-up treatments. When my niece and nephew were very young, my sister-in-law swore by a topical treatment that claimed to reduce the appearance of bruises. What causes bruises besides physical trauma? Can you bottle that and then dilute it? Obviously, nothing and no are the answers here. But because the product didn't make any claims about reducing swelling or relieving pain, you could just swindle my sister-in-law for $20 a tube until her kids became coordinated. There are things that can reduce bruising or reduce the appearance of bruises, but that's not what this was. It was under the same guise as this previous product that HeadOn was launched. Yes, it's been 16 minutes, and I just now started talking about the subject of the video. Morales Healthcare, first introduced the roll-on stick to the market in 2006. I'd tell you more about the company, but information about its history or the people involved then and now is scant. A man named Dan Sharon was working as the VP of Sales and Marketing at the time, and gave a quote to the Washington Post about how the product worked. As you would expect, he claimed that the ingredients in the stick, specifically white burony and potassium dichromate, were listed as headache-causing / curing ingredients by the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States. This obviously meant that HeadOn just worked. In the same article, it's really more a blurb, a real doctor points out that neither substance mentioned has ever been proven to cause or cure headaches. A later analysis showed that the stick was almost entirely wax. By that, I mean the concentration levels of white burony, the main ingredient listed on the box, said it was a 12 times dilution. That would mean for every one part of the ingredient that is supposed to be curing or whatever there were 1 trillion parts wax. The other main ingredient, potassium dichromate, it was a little better. Just 1 part per 1 million parts wax. There was nothing in there. It was wax. It was just wax. With that in mind, I think we need to ask the other important question about how HeadOn works. And that is, how the fuck does it relieve headaches if you rub it on your forehead? There are topical applications, patches, creams, sticks, I don't know. These things that can have internal effects. Fentanyl and birth control patches, for example, are popular. I don't know. The thing is that the patches are heavily dosed with the active ingredient. They're called transdermal patches, as a matter of fact. And they require prescriptions. They're potent. HeadOn cost $8 and was sold off the shelf by comparison. Because rubbing a candle on your forehead would produce the same results, it wasn't really up to anybody to regulate that shit. And it was no danger outside of people maybe buying something thinking it was medicine. I was trying to find the company's explanation of how the medicine, in quotes, by the way, got to the brain, as I had recalled seeing one years back, but I wasn't able to dig it up. And I clicked through everything I saw on both the company and HeadOn that I could find, but just I couldn't get it. But here's the thing. I have to say this without a source because of that inability to track it down. But the quote I had seen said that HeadOn worked, quote, through the nerves. It's not an answer that makes any sense. Now, unless this is going to be kind of a stretch because I'm not a doctor or a researcher, but I think Icy Hot and Tiger Balm and these other surface treatments, they're classified as liniments, by the way, are not effective. And they're also said to work through the nerves. By applying a topical cream to the skin over a sore muscle or a pained location, the active ingredients in these products, like menthol and methyl silicate or capsaicin, they start causing sensations. Menthol will trick your body into sending cold sensation messages through the nerves, and methyl silicate will create surface irritation. The effect is at once numbing and pain relieving, but only for a short while. The American Interventional Pain Institute has a breakdown on how all this functions, and they posit that these products work under something called gate theory. You've probably seen a show or a movie where a character has some sort of pain, like a broken toe or something like that, and someone tries to distract him by like doing something that's a little less irritating, like giving him a give him a paper cut or something. Like something that it distracts you. This new pain is not more than the other pain necessarily, but it's something that makes you forget about the original complaint. And so that's gate theory. They think that there's only so much pain, or you can only sense so much pain from your entire body, or I don't know. Not a doctor. But it's the idea is this more minor pain will dull the major pain you're experiencing for a short time. Oh, wait. We also need to talk about the source I just listed. You see, the American Interventional Pain Institute, it's not unbiased. If you don't know, there are two ways to approach pain treatments. The first is medication, which often needs to be purchased for the long term and reapplied on a schedule. Think Oxycontin. Interventionalist pain treatment is generally a more permanent and surgical solution to chronic pain. And despite the name of the institute, this place is the Interventionalist Pain, or American Interventional Pain Institute, is a clinic in Green Acres, Florida. It is not a study center. It's not a university affiliated thing. It is a clinic that likes to make money by doing operations. They have a vested interest in making you see Icy Hot and its ilk as scams. However, most medical professionals agree that liniments aren't an effective treatment. This is a case of biased sourcing having some real backing. The National Institutes of Health in the US did a study a few years back and found that there was some temperature change detected both at and below the surface when a number of heating and cooling liniments were actually applied. The problem is that this didn't say, okay, also people felt less pain over the long term. This also doesn't do anything for you outside of change how your skin feels. Like that was just a temperature check. I run 7 miles a day at sub 7 minutes a mile. My knee hurts even as I'm talking to you. For years, I used a capsaicin-based topical treatment that gave me maybe an hour of relief. I don't know. You know what worked better? Icing my joints when they hurt and compression. I actually went out and bought a half-leg flexible ice pack and some elasticy knee braces a few years ago and haven't looked back. These products are pain relief, not pain treatment. That detour felt pretty good. Look, I'm not saying that Tiger Balm should be taken off the market or something. I'm saying that both HeadOn and these topical pain relievers are going for the same market of people with pain issues who may need intervention from a medical professional or even just a nice ice pack or heating pad. that's exploitative at its best. At worst, it's just evil. Not all pain medicine is built the same way, and Aleve will be more effective than HeadOn. When I had a sudden bout of back pain, I didn't put Bengay in the problem area. I took an ibuprofen per day and got sick as a dog because I seemed to have an allergy to pain medication. But I did it anyways. The most disgusting part of HeadOn and the products in the Miralus family, besides the fact that one of them apparently contained unsafe levels of lead and was one of the few ingestibles they produced, marketed completely at women. The problem is that these products exploit people who are desperate for a solution to chronic problems. It would be great if every time a frequent migraine sufferer felt something coming on, they could just rub a stick on their head and not have to spend a day or so in a dark room cringing in pain. That's what they offered, and they simply didn't deliver on that by any stretch of the imagination. It's what makes these products a true grift. See, that's the name of the show. Okay, episode over. So anyone here for scam details still, you can feel free to sign off. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you spending your time here and dealing with me as I try to build up a breathing cadence that I realize I should have probably tested out a little bit more before I started talking. I always feel I have a very good lung capacity, and yet I found myself trying to find spots to breathe in this entire script. Should have built more stops in. I'm rambling. And I have to do a little bit more rambling for those of you who are longtime listeners. So let me explain something for those of you who are still interested. I had been doing Let's Plays for almost consistently 10 years by the time I gave up on the Cyberpunk LP. And I actually have 3 more finished episodes of that LP, 2 of them uploaded on YouTube, just waiting to be released, that I didn't feel like I was really into what I was doing. And I don't think that's just on Cyberpunk's shoulders. I think that I was approaching Cyberpunk and other LPs before that as something of a job. And that's never good. I was having fun for a long time, and I still had fun with Cyberpunk. But I kind of dreaded having to turn on and record and edit everything. I was just letting videos sit raw for weeks and then going, okay, yeah, I should definitely do this. So when I went on vacation, I was like, okay, I'm going to reset. I'm going to come back from vacation and I'm going to start pumping out videos. And I just didn't want to. So I basically decided that's going to be it. I'm not closing the door permanently on doing another Let's Play or anything like that. I'm not even saying that this is going to be an overlong series. I may decide to branch out a little bit and do some other topics, but we'll see how that goes. I'm just trying to find something I actually enjoy doing as kind of a time killer because, my dogs I have one old dog and I have one young dog, and they're finally in a good spot after 7-8 months of being together all the time. They've both kind of figured each other out, and I don't have to kind of hover over them. They're actually presently hovering over me, watching, well, one of them's awake, but the other one's dead asleep. Who are the good girls? And, I just want to find something to do with the little bit of the free time I've reclaimed, not having to deal with, worrying about these 2 idiots. So yeah, that's it. Once bowling season ends, I'm definitely going to have my Thursday evenings back. That'll be great. But yeah, well, we'll figure it out. So thanks for watching. Thanks for the support you may have given me in the past. It's always appreciated. If I let you down by the format change, it's I understand. But yeah, we'll see you in the future. Bye, everyone.